This year's my 20th anniversary of becoming a comics critic and a culture critic more generally. And the one thing that's remained true, amongst these 2 decades is that drawings are dope. And seeing behind the scenes and seeing how and why people drew things is even doper. It's interesting to see what kinds of choices people are making behind the scenes and what kind of things they're studying in order to, get the reps and the experience to make those choices. Every great stays in the gym, whether they're putting up 3 point shots or doing sketches for fun just to keep their sword sharp. Chris Ware's Acme Novelty Datebook is a dream project for me. I love seeing behind the scenes like this, seeing all the prep he made for his projects. Original art is a thrill, and if you'll walk with me for a little bit, I want to talk with you about how art progressed from opaque to enthralling for me, especially the work of Steve Dillon. I'm David Brothers, and this is No Relation, the greatest show on earth. I asked a few friends how they felt about original art, because, I know how I feel, but checking myself against others is always fun. Before we get into the mix, here's Chip Zdarsky, creator of Public Domain, writer of Batman, Daredevil, and co-creator of Time Waits, on original art.
I think comic book art is one of the highest art forms. It requires so much knowledge to do really well, and to see that in the flesh is pretty amazing. There's also, nostalgia in there, because 99% of the time that you buy a piece, it's something that you originally read in print. So to have that piece is an incredibly powerful thing.
Next is my friend Amy, Tater Pie on B-Sky. She's been a part of the comics internet for a long time, and I've really enjoyed, picking her brain over the years and seeing the various pieces of original art that she's picked up. It's definitely the real deal.
I got into original art via the usual door, comics. I started with con sketches and then a page or two from books I enjoyed. Part of it is owning something either from or that alludes to something I really enjoyed so I can feel that spark over and over. Some of it might be bragging rights, showing others the thing in hopes they feel the same spark, and then you own a shared moment in time. And then I realized it didn't have to just be comics, and I could buy all sorts of original art in many mediums. And sometimes the artists even let me tell them my idea. The thrill of that small slice of collaboration is real. Now I have more art than I have walls, and that is a problem.
Jim Lee and Chris Claremont's X-Men #1 in particular was a gateway to the wider world of comics for me. Books like this and Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira gave me a peek at a world that I never could have imagined on my own, of super idealized humans and impossible to believe action. There was something really incredible about this book as a kid, and I've been really grateful that my appreciation for it has only deepened as I've gotten older. Jim Lee and Scott Williams were doing a lot of interesting things, and it's really paid off, kind of looking a little bit closer over the years, looking just past the glitz and the glamour. Books like this are a window to another world. This one's sci-fi, romantic, adventurous, a far cry from the life that I was living in Georgia at the time. I had a barn in my backyard when I was growing up, so there definitely was a ceiling on my fantasies as a kid, let's say. So when I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the first time, this was another window via artwork for me. This movie helped define what New York City looked like. The water towers, the cityscape, the buildings. I don't know if I saw a building over 4 stories tall that wasn't a hospital for years. But this movie showed me, and it made me think that New York was an amazing, wonderful place. And I eventually got there, and I found out that it was. This kind of art represents reality, but through someone else's perception. Someone decided what this New York was going to look like, what kind of vibe it was going to bring. Looking at art through other people's eyes, using their eyes as windows, is something that's incredibly powerful. I've learned a lot from works like Toni Morrison's Beloved or Takako Shimura's Wandering Sun. Books that dig into aspects of our culture or our shared reality that I may not be privy to, but need to understand in order to be the best person that I can be. Allegory is really useful. When I didn't have the words to describe how it felt being the son of a single mom or what depression felt like before I even probably knew the words depression, rap music was there for me. Projects like Kid Cudi's Pursuit of Happiness helped me define myself and what I was going through. I've been fortunate that I've backed into a career where I get to see art all the time. I got my start in the video game industry and transitioned to comics, and I've been sitting here shiny and chrome for a few years now. And comics artists are often free with their time. They love talking about the people who influence them or ways to get better at my own art, or even just pointing out really dope projects. I think that Tsutomu Nihei's Tower Dungeon is going to hit with a splash later this year once, more artists get their hands on it. This kind of experience has been very humanizing in terms of art. These are less idols and gods creating, cosmic tapestries, and more people putting marks on paper, making decisions every step of the way. Art's not magic. It takes work and effort, and you can't really phone it in. But it's worth the effort. Art is timeless. Art is our way of finding immortality, I feel. So seeing artists as people more and more often reminds me that they're just like me. I might not be able to draw as well as this person or that person, but if I put my nose to the grindstone, I could find my own path. I could find my own way of drawing well. And there's something delightful about that. There's no taking that away from me. It's just a part of natural human expression. One of my favorite examples of a great being human in front of people is on Richard Pryor's third album. He's easily my favorite stand-up comedian, someone I appreciate a great deal. And when he opens his, classic album with a little bit where he says, "I hope I'm funny," that really struck me. That little bit of vulnerability, even if it was joking, self-deprecating, there's something true and real there. Even with all the success he's experienced and all of his hits and money and everything, part of him is still like, you know what? I hope I'm funny and I hope y'all have a good time tonight. And I really, really love that.
Come on, give it up. Thank you. Good evening. Hope I'm funny. Yeah, because I know niggas ready to kick ass. I'm like, you better be funny, motherfucker.
One of the best parts of living in Oakland, California is having access to the Oakland Museum of California. It's one of my favorite places on earth, and I go there whenever I can. It's a 3-part museum. There's natural science, California history, and an art museum, along with a rotating special exhibition. The museum does a great job of contextualizing its exhibits within California history. The art is from people who are from California or about Californians, that kind of thing. It's very focused, and I appreciate the clarity, the context that it provides. There's this group called Sketchboard Company, and they've partnered with the museum to do figure drawing in the art museum section a couple times a month for a few months now. And I've been going as often as I can. You can see me in the background of a lot of their social media photos, getting my reps in. I love drawing at the museum. There's something about that atmosphere that is perfect for finding a groove and kind of locking in on what you're doing, even if you're having a hard time doing it. Because even if I am, struggling with getting a line right, finding the curve of a back or, a gesture or something, if I raise my eyes a little bit, I'll see more people who are struggling with the same thing I am in their own particular way. Or maybe they're breezing through it, like they found the magic line to get it done. And if I raise my eyes above that, I'll see the art surrounding us, depicting California history, landscapes, photographs of workers, migrants, everything. It's beautiful. And it's a great place to create art, and I'm really grateful that they've set this place up. It's another way to satisfy my curiosity for original art. I mentioned that Jim Lee blew the hinges off the doors when I was a kid. Steve Dillon had a similar effect when I was an adult, but almost the opposite in a way. I didn't get his work at first. Coming from the bombast of all my favorite Image comics, Dillon was composed in a way that I didn't expect, and it took some time to wrap my head around that. As a critic, this kind of thing is enthralling to me. When I can see quality in a work but not quite get it, it's almost like throwing a ball for a dog. Like, I've got to find out what's going on there. I've got to find out what's provoking this reaction in me and why. And I ended up tracing Dillon's career back, forwards, and sideways. I came to him first through Marvel Knight's Punisher with Garth Ennis, I thought it was good, but this is the book where I was like, oh, this doesn't really seem like a Punisher artist exactly. I went to Wolverine, and then back to Wildcats with Joe Casey, and then Hellblazer, and eventually to Preacher, and then to Judge Dredd, and then forward to Punisher again, kind of getting it this time, and then back to Judge Dredd with more understanding of what he's done. And by the end of it, suddenly I had a new favorite artist. You know, Steve Dillon's work really crept up on me. It got its hooks in me. And the more I looked at it, the more I liked it, which is a delightful feeling. Like, it's genuinely incredible. I got a copy of the 2000 AD art of Steve Dillon, the Apex edition, a black and white facsimile style project that reproduces his art at size and, you know, like unaltered, lots of paste up and that kind of stuff. It's really very cool. It's an amazing book. And it's the freshest look I've had at Steve Dillon's art since I first discovered him all those years ago, when I didn't understand what he was doing or where he had come from. Now I understand that he's been good his entire career, from when he was a young gunner on 2000 AD to the wily vet of Punisher. There are great things about his art in every era of his career, and the 2000 AD art of Steve Dillon does a great job of capturing these little snippets and bits and pieces of greatness that he's blessed us with over time. I own a fair number of artist editions, artisan editions, whatever any company wants to call a book that has a bunch of black and white drawings in it that are slightly unfinished. Like, I'm there. Like, hook me up. I love it as a format, and this is probably my favorite one yet, even above the incredible Batman Year One by David Mazzucchelli. That series is an unbeatably high watermark in comics, but there's something about these Dillon pages that just get my brain buzzing. Like, they're just bleeding thrill power every time I take a peek at the book. I co-created a book called Time Waits with Chip Zdarsky, Marcus Toe, Marvin Cianapar, Matt Wilson, Ariana Marr, and Alison O'Toole. And we ended up going to Yorkshire in England for the Thought Bubble convention, Thought Bubble Comic Festival, which was a great show. The icing on the cake was finding out there would be an exhibition of Steve Dillon's original art there. And I'd seen very few of his originals up until recently. It wasn't really something I had access to or could afford, to be quite honest. So, like, I leapt at this. You know, my trip to the UK suddenly had two goals. I wanted to see a bunch of JMW Turner originals at the Tate Britain. He's an artist I love. I came to him through a Lupe Fiasco album that used The Slave Ship as an intro. And I wanted to see a bunch of Steve Dillon originals. You know, those are my two peaks of British art, let's say. And off I went. And it delivered. Like, it was a beautiful exhibition. It was organized by his family. And just seeing all of that work there on those tables and on the wall was really inspiring. Like, this guy did it. Like, Steve Dillon was the man. And it's really fascinating to look at the art and try to divine what was going on back in the day. Like, why did he draw this specific thing this way instead of another way? One of my most favorite comics ever is called Heartland, and it's by Steve Dillon, Garth Ennis, and friends. And it's honestly one of the finest things I think DC has ever published in its entire history. It's a spin-off redo, a follow-up to their run on Hellblazer together, where they also did a story called Heartland in Hellblazer number 70. There's no magic or monsters or anything like that. Just a series of conversations and heartbreak and reconciliations and all the good stuff. You know, all the stuff that makes comics beautiful. Amazing drawings. And getting to see the title page from Heartland, from Hellblazer number 70, that version, was really moving for me. I really enjoy urban sketching, you know, like drawing buildings and your breakfast or whatever. And here's Steve Dillon, the master, drawing the Crown Bar for an issue of Hellblazer. I didn't even know this was a real place for years. I just assumed that, you know, that Ennis and Dillon were riffing on something. I love it. This title page is so straightforward and beautiful to me. The way he captured the feeling of the bar, the evening. You could see little buildings in the background that maybe didn't come through in the print edition. And those thick marker lines, maybe it's from him, maybe it's from production. You know, there's such a human hand here. You can see it especially on the right with his drawing of Tommy Monahan from Hitman. You know, you've got these really fine shadows on the sleeve and then like these chunky blacks for the body. It's just so good. Everything he drew, from Wolverine to Punisher to Deadpool to John Constantine to Dredd to everything, I just love seeing the world that he built. I feel really fortunate that I figured out, what was so good about Steve Dillon. At this point, I think you get it. And I got one last bit. I asked my friend Michael Mulcher, the 2008 brand manager, what he thought about Dillon and original art, and he blew me out of the water. He has a great take, so enjoyed these works cited and this last little bit of wisdom.
And it wasn't just because he was a great artist, which of course he was. It was because allied to that, he was a great friend as well. And, a raconteur, a bon vivant, however you want to call it. And all of that, I think, was wrapped up in his art. His ability to imbue lines with humanity. And it's one of those things you kind of refer back to Roland Barthes' Camera Lucida, where he talks about the secondary part of the perception of a photograph as being the stab of pain, where you connect with the emotion of the object. And I think that's a really important thing, not just in terms of original art, but in terms of Steve Dillon's stuff, that I look at it now and there is that stab, not just of having met him and talked to him and the amount of love that people had for him, but how he conveyed that in his artwork, which is a lot rarer than than you might imagine. And that's really the main aspect of Dylan's work that I love, is its humanity, is the way that it conveys the everyday in a way that it demonstrates empathy and understanding and awareness of the world around him. And the fact that, he started drawing like this when he was a teenager is just utterly ridiculous. So when I see original artwork of Steve's, there is that kind of Bartian stab of pain, because you recognize the humanity in it. And that's the value of original art, is being able to not just see the artwork, but get some sense of the humanity of the human behind it. And I think uniquely, Steve's work was just imbued with his personality, which was one that connected with people and enjoyed connecting with people. Yeah, and that makes him unique, I think.